If you open a standard English Bible, you'll find 1st and 2nd Samuel grouped with the historical books, slotted right between Judges and Kings. But the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, organizes these texts differently, and that arrangement alters how we read them. The word Tanakh is actually an acronym for its 3 sections: the Torah, or Pentateuch, the Nevi'im, which are the prophets, and the Ketuvim, or writings. In this structure, Samuel migrates out of the history section and sits within the former prophets. This canonical shift defines the text as a highly specific theological evaluation known as Deuteronomic history. Deuteronomic history takes Israel's entire timeline, from Joshua's entry into the land down to the 586 BC exile, and judges it strictly against the spiritual ideals set out in the book of Deuteronomy. Reading Samuel simply as a chronological record misses its architectural purpose. It is a theological lens designed to evaluate the rise and fall of Israel's early leaders. Since ancient texts don't use our modern BC or AD dating systems, scholars have to look outside the text to pinpoint exactly when the events of Samuel occurred. The solution starts with astrophysics, specifically the mathematical tracking of total solar eclipses. Ancient Assyrian astronomers meticulously documented these eclipses alongside their own political history. This stele shows the dense cuneiform text and carved figures representing ancient Assyrian kings. By matching these precise eclipse records with Assyrian texts that mention overlapping Israelite kings, like Ahab and Jehu, researchers can establish a fixed mathematical anchor. From that anchor, we can step backward. We know King Solomon ascended the throne in 970 BC. Applying the 40-year regnal formulas found in the biblical text, we calculate that David's reign began in 1010 BC and Saul's in 1050 BC. This gives us a rigid 100-year window from 1050 to 970 BC, setting the stage to analyze the book's highly structured political defense of David's right to rule. The Book of Judges ends in total anarchy. The text repeatedly states that everyone did what was right in their own eyes because Israel had no king. But Judges anticipates a specific solution. It looks forward to the spiritually guided monarch outlined back in Deuteronomy chapter 17. This timeline covers 1050 to 970 BC, mapping the 3 lives that dominate Samuel. Stage 1 is the prelude to kingship. Here, the Lord raises up the prophet Samuel as a divine kingmaker. Stage 2 is the inauguration, culminating in Saul's coronation. Saul's name in Hebrew, Shaul, literally translates to asked for. He is exactly the superficial leader the people demanded, rather than the ideal king they needed. This leads directly to stage 3, failure. In chapters 13 through 15, Saul structurally fails his spiritual mandate, and as a result, he forfeits his dynasty. Saul functions narratively as a foil. He provides a failed baseline against which the true, upcoming king will be measured. A large portion of Samuel operates as a literary apology. This doesn't mean asking for forgiveness. An apology, in this context, is a formal, structural defense of David's political and spiritual credentials. Returning to the timeline, we enter stage 4, kingship in limbo. Notice the overlapping section where David enters while Saul is still in power. The first king remains on the throne, while the next king must wait. This extended limbo section addresses a specific historical accusation, the claim that David was a usurper who orchestrated a bloody coup against Saul. Chapter after chapter methodically proves that David was a loyal subject. He did not cause Saul's downfall. We see Saul's intense paranoia, David fleeing into forced exile, and David repeatedly refusing to assassinate Saul, even when he has the direct opportunity. This massive block of overlapping narrative exists to establish David's divinely ordained right to the throne, proving he took power with clean hands. The limbo period ends violently at the conclusion of 1 Samuel, with Saul's death in battle. This brings us to stage 5, kingship revived. Saul's timeline terminates, and David's expands to full dominance. David formally ascends to the throne and successfully unifies the fractured Israelite tribes under one banner. In these early years, he embodies the Deuteronomic ideal, leading the people both politically and spiritually. This image displays the archaeological excavation of the city of David in Jerusalem. showing the foundational ruins where he established his physical capital. The first 10 chapters of 2 Samuel represent the absolute peak of the Israelite monarchy, briefly fulfilling the ancient hope established back in the era of the Judges. But here we hit a narrative paradox. If this text is a formal defense of David, why deliberately expose his horrific sins involving Uriah and Bathsheba? Logically, committing adultery and ordering a murder should have immediately terminated his kingship and his dynasty, just as Saul's lesser failures ended his. We find the answer in Stage 6, Kingship Preserved, which sits on top of a new structural foundation, the 2 Samuel 7 covenant. This covenant is a load-bearing structure. It is an irrevocable divine promise made before David's moral collapse. God disciplines David harshly for his crimes, but strictly because of that prior covenant, he refuses to abandon him. Including David's worst sins actually strengthens the apology. It proves to the reader that the dynasty survives entirely on God's unwavering commitment, not on human perfection. 2 Samuel concludes with a structural anomaly, a 4-chapter epilogue. These final chapters deliberately break chronological order, putting the forward momentum of the plot completely on hold. This section operates as a thematic microcosm, reflecting the extreme highs and devastating lows of David's entire reign. It formalizes the theological history, capping off a text that ends with a secure, preserved dynasty ready to transition to King Solomon. The narrative lines are tied up, allowing a smooth handoff into the book of 1 Kings. Yet, a theological unease lingers. While the Davidic line is secure, the deep, catastrophic flaws of human kings have been fully exposed. The macrostructure of Samuel perfectly sets up the inevitable tragedy of the king's era. It establishes a trajectory where human failure will eventually split the kingdom and lead directly to the Babylonian exile.